Abu Dhabi Dude! Hi there, this is Abu Dhabi Dude! Welcome back. And today's video, I am going to talk about the cost of public charging. Now, anyone that's remotely been keeping up with EV news of late will not be surprised to learn that this video has partly been been brought about by the recent announcement by Ionity about just how much they are planning to charge for charging now that their introductory offer is over with. And boy, do they know how to hike a price. Now, they've gone from a flat rate of £8 or €8 in mainland Europe per charge to a price per kilowatt hour, which we all expected, we all knew was coming. You could not expect them to maintain that structure forever. It just isn't reasonable to do that. You know, they had to go to a price per kilowatt hour model at some point. But what we did not expect was the price. So while it's hard to do a complete direct comparison because it used to be £8 whether you took 1 kilowatt hour or 80 kilowatt hours, what's being touted around by most people, which I assume they're basing on an average charging session, but it's a 500% increase. 500%, making Ionity now the most expensive charging company, that's easy for me to say, by quite some margin. Nobody comes close. It's a scary price. Now, the internet has also been full of people saying, yes, but this is to be expected. The Ionity network is funded by a number of manufacturers, the primary and biggest one being Volkswagen Audi. So they are doing this so that they can then produce a reduced pricing model for people who buy their cars, and therefore encourage people to buy their EVs over somebody else's EV, another company's. And yes, you could argue that that is true. However, and it is undeniable to state, there are a couple of circumstances, a couple of situations that make that an incorrect statement. First of all, the Ionity network was not just funded by car networks. The Ionity network received almost €40 million of funding from the EU. €40 million. Now, I've paid that out of my pocket, so have you, regardless of what car you were driving. We all paid for that €40 million. Second of all, in part, the Ionity network came about as a result of Volkswagen's need to make up for, or to make amends for, Dieselgate. It was part of their penance for Dieselgate. So they didn't set up Ionity to promote Volkswagen EVs. They set up Ionity because they had to, because they lied to us for years about how much pollution their cars were spewing out into the atmosphere. So, Ionity has been funded by a lot of people, not just people that are going on to buy Volkswagen and Audi electric vehicles. I can't believe that the EU funded it without putting some sort of stipulation on it, but obviously they have. So that's the first thing, is it's not correct to say that they're within the rights because it's been set up by that company or those companies. The second reason that I really object to it is, we're still fairly early in the adoption curve for EVs. All this does is fragment the charging market massively, way more than it was before. When I go out in my car, if I have a petrol car, let's say I buy a Mini. If I go out in a Mini and I think, oh, it's time to put fuel in, I don't think, oh, look, there's a BP garage. Oh, no, I can't use that one because they're going to charge me twice as much as they'll charge a Volkswagen driver. I'll have to drive around and wait for a Shell garage or whatever. You know, you don't get that model with petrol companies. You just go to a petrol station. Okay, there are customer loyalty programs and stuff, but it's not charging you double for your petrol because you're not a member of their club. You know, and if that was to be implemented by them, I think there would be a parliamentary inquiry about it. But somehow charging companies are being allowed to do it. We want people to adopt EVs. We need them to adopt them at scale, in numbers. And this is just going to discourage it. Because not only is it only for drivers of VWs and Audis and whatever else, but the cheaper charging is not transferring over. So if you sell your VW to somebody else and they buy it second hand, they then start paying the same for charging at Ionity as I pay on my iPace. They don't get the VW loyalty price. You know, if I buy a second-hand Tesla, I can still go and access Tesla superchargers, and I'm not paying extra for the privilege. You know, this is not a good thing. It is not a fair thing, and it should not be allowed. Okay? And I will not hear people telling me it's perfectly reasonable because they want to promote their own business or whatever. No. I paid for that and you paid for that. They were quick enough holding their handouts for grants. So those grants came from the pockets of taxpayers. Right. That's my first thing. Okay? And as I say, fragmentation. But also, people, when they're thinking of buying an EV, the first thing they do is look at it and say, well, how much is charging going to cost me? And the simple fact is, if they look at Ionity, it's a lot, and it's going to be enough to put them off buying an EV. As I will show you later when I do show you my calculations, I've come up with just some numbers just to give some direct comparisons. But people are going to look at it and say, holy swear word, I am better off buying a petrol car. I mean, you can run a petrol F-Pace cheaper than you can run an EV at Ionity at their full rate. So, the third thing that I hate about it as well is that, you know, there's been a lot of comments made on forums and the like by people who say, well, yes, but you're not going to, you know, it doesn't matter, you do all your charging at home. You know, the en route charging is just an extra privilege, and you should be prepared to pay extra for that ability. You know, you have to pay extra. You're not going to pay the same as you pay at home. True. However, there are a huge number of households in Britain, and I can't remember, is it 40% or is it 40% that do have driveways? Can't remember. I think it's 40% of UK households do not have access to off-street parking. They park on street. They rely on the public charging network. They don't charge at home 90% of the time and then charge en route the rest. They charge en route all the time. They charge at public chargers all the time because it's all they can charge at. It's all they can access. They can't afford these prices. They can't afford it. This is getting ridiculous. Charging is not priced correctly or fairly. It's not priced how it should be priced. Okay? Simple as. I fully expect to pay more than a home rate of electricity. I mean, I pay 5p per kilowatt hour off peak. But even at peak rate, I pay 15p. I don't expect to pay that for charging. I expect to pay a bit more. and I expect to pay a bit more again for rapid charging, for ultra fast charging, 100 kilowatt, 150 kilowatt chargers. I expect to be paying a bit more. I'm fine with that concept, but there's a bit more and there's Ionity more, and it's a massive difference, so these are all the primary reasons I'm against it. One of them is, I think mass adoption is urgently needed, and all of these things are impediments to mass adoption. Having to use an app, having to have a subscription, having to buy a certain car to access a certain price, it's overcomplicating something which is already complicated. Keep it simple, keep it easy. What people want to be able to do at chargers, and I'm talking the general public, not tech savvy, early adopters, the general travelling public wants to pull up at a charger, tap their debit card, plug their car in and charge up. That's what is wanted and that's what is needed. Apps are a nonsense. Subscriptions, nonsense. Just be fair about your pricing and put a board up as well. There should be a board up at all public chargers telling you how much they charge, the same way that petrol stations have to, because it's not transparent enough. Anyway, so now we'll go on to the calculations. I have done some rough calculations to work out how much it now costs to charge at public networks, okay? I've done a few comparisons, and I have put in, basically I've based it on contactless payment. I have, however, included a couple that give a different rate for an app, only for full transparency. I don't agree with it. I wish they would just charge the same for app or contactless, but I know that I'll get comments saying, oh yeah, but you said BP Polar charges this and you could have paid by the app and just paid this. So I'm doing it for full inclusion purposes, but you should not have to use an app to pay. There's no technical reason supporting that. It's not essential. It should not be essential. Okay, so what I've done is I've worked out a single charge of the iPace, so 85 kilowatt hours approximately, gives you in summer 250 miles of range approximately. Okay, so I've based all my calculations on that. 2 full charges gives you 500 miles of range. A decent petrol car with reasonable performance, I reckon, will get roughly 500 miles on a tank of petrol. It's not a precise science, and there's a huge range of vehicles to compare it with, but when I do all my calculations with EVs, back to when I was first thinking of getting one, that was the kind of figure I worked on. So 2 full charges of the iPace equals 1 full tank of petrol, roughly. It's very ballpark, but it's not wrong. It's not miles out. So that's what I've done, is I've calculated a whole bunch of rapid charges. Now all of these are rapid charging, ultra rapid charging actually, so 100 kilowatt plus, with the exception that I've included Ecotricity, because Ecotricity are the ones that, again, the general public will see as they're travelling around the motorways of Britain, okay? While they're only sub 50 kilowatt chargers, people see them and people expect to use them. So I've included them in the pricing structure. They still don't work out to be the cheapest. They're one of the top, actually, which is weird for such a slow charge. But I've started now. The cheapest are BP and Shell with the app. If you pay using their apps, BP and Shell are the cheapest. If you pay by contactless card, as you'll see, they become the second and third most expensive. So let's get down to the numbers. 500 miles using the Shell app will cost you 30 pence per kilowatt hour, which is £51 for 2 full charges, so 170 kilowatt hours of charge basically, which is your 500 miles of range. So your 500 miles of range will cost you £51. That's okay. I mean, it's getting quite close to petrol prices, but it still is cheaper. And if you factor in that for some people a lot of the charging will be done at home, in my case it is, not so bad maybe, but it works out that is 10.2 pence per mile. Okay, 10.2 pence per mile. BP Polar, if you pay using their app, is 35 pence per kilowatt hour, so that's £59.50 for 500 miles. That's 11.9 pence per mile. Then we get to InstaVolt. They charge the same at their 125 kilowatt chargers as they do at the 50 kilowatt chargers, but it's a straight price across the board. Whatever InstaVolt charger you plug into, you can only pay contactless. There is no other option. You use your contactless card, and however fast or slow the charger is, you pay 35 pence, the same as BP with the app. So you pay 35 pence per kilowatt hour, again 11.9 pence per mile, or £59.50 for a full 500 miles of range. Okay, now Fastned are kind of equivalent in many ways to Ionity in that they offer multi-charger sites with very fast charging at them, and a very good customer experience. They are, to all intents and purposes, what they do is indistinguishable from what Ionity does, and Fastned charge 39 pence per kilowatt hour. Okay, 39 pence per kilowatt hour. That works out to be, where are we? £66.30 for 500 miles, or 13.26 pence per mile. Okay? Now, Shell, if you pay using contactless card, is exactly the same as Fastned. 39p, £66.30 per charge, or per 500 miles, sorry, 13.26 pence per mile. Ecotricity, who recently hiked their prices by about 31 or 32%, are now charging the same as well. 39 pence per kilowatt hour, £66.30, 500 miles, 13.26 pence per mile. And then what up until recently was the most expensive was BP Polar, paying by contactless card 40 pence per kilowatt hour. This is on their ultra high speeds. This is their 150 kilowatt charge rate. It's 40 pence, so that's £68 for 500 miles of range, which is 13.6 pence per mile. That was the most expensive until Ionity. Ionity's price, and I find it hard to even say this without choking, Ionity are charging 69 pence per kilowatt hour. 69 pence. Considering you can pay 30 pence if you charge up at Shell, or to get the fast charge, go to BP and pay 35 pence. So for twice as much as BP or InstaVolt, and almost twice as much as Fastned, 500 miles from Ionity would cost an eye-watering £117.30. So in other words, imagine if a tank of petrol was costing you £117.30. That's what Ionity are charging for 500 miles of range. That amounts to, again, an eye-watering 23.46 pence per mile. So near enough 120 quid for 500 miles of range on Ionity. There is no justification on the planet for this. It is appalling. Absolutely appalling. And the one thing I'm grateful for is that Ionity have not rolled out in Britain as aggressively as they said they were going to. And I seriously hope that other charging companies move in quick and snap up the Prime sites, because that's appalling. That is absolutely appalling and just shouldn't be allowed. It's a shocking price to pay for electricity. Yes, the chargers are expensive to install, but Fastned pay just the same to install their chargers, and they install canopies with solar panels, so their installation costs are higher than Ionity's, and they're charging almost half the price. It's not quite half the price, but it's not far off half the price. That is just shocking. All this is going to do is fragment the market, make it more confusing than it already is, and discourage people from buying EVs. Will it encourage take-up of Volkswagen EVs or Audi EVs? I don't think so. So it begs the question, are they doing this to actually slow EV take-up? Who knows? I genuinely don't know. All I know is that it's an absolutely appalling markup. It cannot be justified on any level. They have received a huge amount of public funding, and they are ripping us off left, right and centre. So obviously I will not be using Ionity again, and I will not be promoting their use again. It's an appalling way to conduct business, and it's an appalling way to treat your customers, of which up until now I have been a great proponent of Ionity. I have sung their virtues, I have preached to the converted, and basically told anybody that will listen that that is the future of charging. But it's not. Fastned, if you're watching this, please roll out more chargers in Britain. At the moment, you only have one site in the UK. Please bring more. Expand, and expand quickly and aggressively. And please put Ionity in their place. Drive them to the niche corners of the market where they're in off the beaten track sites, not at prime sites on the motorways. I want Ionity to lose out big time. This is an unfair business practice and should not be permitted to continue, in my opinion. I will never use them ever again whilst this policy persists. So there you go. £120 for 500 miles of range with Ionity, as opposed to a range of between £51 and £68 with the other charging companies. I mean, £51 to £68 is quite a wide spread, and really I would expect to see prices much closer together. 51 to 58 is quite a big spread, but it's knocked into nothingness by £120, £117.30, nearly £120. I don't know what the justification is. There is no justification for this. There simply is no justification. It cannot be explained away. There is no good excuse for it. So yes, that's today's rant, and it did become a rant. I was determined not to make it a rant, but it became a rant. My biggest issue with it is not how it will impact me, but how it will impact the EV market and EV adoption across the UK. If people that are thinking of buying EVs see those kind of prices, and especially if they don't have off-street parking available to them, that's going to have a negative impact. So there you go. Thoughts, comments, as ever, please discuss it down below. I am sure there will be some controversial remarks, and I'm sure that not everybody agrees with my point of view, but that's my take on it. I'm not doing it purely from the perspective of somebody who bought an iPace. I'm trying to view it from the perspective of somebody who wants to be able to buy an EV for 10, 15, 20,000 pounds second hand. Those people are on a budget, you know, and I see too many people on the internet saying, you know, I spent 80,000 pounds on a car. I don't think £60 for a full charge is going to knock me out of pocket. You know, there's too much of that. There's too many people saying, oh, well, yeah, I charge, you do most of your charging at home anyway, so the odd time where you have to public charge, you've got to expect to pay more. Look at it from the perspective of somebody who's not on a budget, didn't buy an 80 grand EV, sorry, not on a budget, who is on a budget, who's on a very tight budget, did not spend 80 grand on their car, doesn't have 80 grand to spend on an EV, and can't charge at home. What are they going to buy? A 10 grand petrol car? Or a 15 grand electric car that's going to cost them twice as much to run? If everybody adopts the Ionity public charging price structure. It's not on. Sorry, I'm doing it again. Comments down below, please, and I will respond to as many as are at least civil. If you've liked the video, then please give it a big thumbs up. That does help the channel immensely. And the other thing that helps is subscribing. So if you do want to subscribe, I would hugely appreciate it. If you subscribe, don't forget to click on the bell icon as well, and that way you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. If you do want to subscribe, you can do that right now by clicking on my ugly little face over there. And don't forget to check out some of my other videos like this one up here. Till next time, this is Abu Dhabi Dude saying so long, take care, see you soon. Bye. Abu Dhabi Dude.